Everybody, thanks so much for listening. If you're listening to us as a first timer, please subscribe, like, and share on the podcasting sites. If you're listening to us on one of the radio stations, again, we greatly appreciate your time, and definitely tell your friends, your family members on the radio station you're listening to us. Thanks so much. Ann Naimark back on the program. She is a psychotherapist for 30 years and ongoing. She did put out a book. We've had her on the program before, but we're going to recap this book too, and just a little bit about what she's doing. It's A Touch of Light. Ann Naimark. It's Naimark. Ann, thanks so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you, Rob. I'm delighted to be invited. Yay. Thanks.
Right, so let's go into the book in general. What made you want to write this book?
Well, my dad years and years ago said, "I think you should write the story of your life." And I was like, "Why? Why should I do that?" And that was a long time ago. And then a few years ago, I started having a feeling to do just that. And at the same time, a friend of mine was feeling the same thing for his life and write the story. So I signed up with a publishing company that I love, and they led me through every single step. And I just started writing when I felt like it. There wasn't a schedule. People would give me ideas. Oh, here you can do an outline and you get it done quick. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to do it when I want. So some nights I felt like it and some I didn't, and I just got it written. It's the story of my spiritual journey throughout my life, and included with little snippets from meditations and what I did in my life. Not every detail. I didn't want to go through it, but and then the main idea is to encourage people to pursue their own journey, whatever that looks like. I'm just like, here's my journey. Here's what happened. It's been great for me. I'm still on it. It's never ending. And so I'm just telling you, this is great, you guys, and go for it.
And growing up, can you talk about your childhood and, I guess how it made you what you are today?
Sure. Yeah. Well, my parents were atheists. And I remember at 15, this is in the book too. At 15 years old, I was sitting outside in the backyard in New Jersey where we were growing up. And I just had this funny feeling that I wondered if my parents knew what they were talking about. That's all. It was just a feeling. And then in my 20, after I was finished with college, I started exploring all kinds of spiritual disciplines. I started actually with hatha yoga and I loved it. And then I went off into a lot of directions and it's just continued. So, but then I also eventually decided to become a psychotherapist. And that was a good idea. So I went to school, my master's degree, and one of the classes was an actual group therapy led by one of the teachers. So I'm discovering in this group therapy, I got issues. I got stuff. And I asked her if she would be my therapist, but she cost me too much money. She referred me to a guy. I went into his office, sat down, and I felt like I'm home. This is my place. And I actually hung out with him for 16 years. And we explored all my childhood wounding and stuff. So it was like my parents were smart. They've both died. But my dad was a PhD in biochemistry.
Wow.
My mom got her master's in something to do with urban planning. She was very smart. They met in college. They were interested in all kinds of things like music and art and science and lots of interesting stuff. And so we were raised like that. They would take us into New York to go to Broadway plays, all the musicals. They would go to one, decide, oh, that we can take our kids. So we would go and saw a lot of original cast plays, which was cool. And that part was great, great family vacations. And my dad was very controlling. My mom was a little odd. She was not a warm, friendly person. Super smart, but she had competition with her daughters, my sister and I. So she would send little verbal jabs to us, and I got a lot of those in the heart. It's like, ouch.
Yeah.
Like putting us down, criticizing, a lot of criticism. So there was that, and she was odd. Like, we would be at, like, here's one example I stuck in the book. I don't think my sister will mind too much because she's in the book. That we were at a big dinner with all other family members, and in this lull in the conversation, my mom just shoots out, I won't say my sister's name, but
Sure.
she's such a mouse. And like nobody knew what to say. It was a criticism of my sister. There was dead silence, and my mom would like interject these strange comments. So she was odd. We don't know what happened to her. We know there was some kind of trauma in her childhood, and she visited it on us.
Yeah.
My dad, I think, tried to protect her. So he would control us. Anger was verboten in our house. It's a bad thing. You don't do it. So we stuffed it. And so we didn't know how to deal with our own intense feelings like that. So I'm going to college. I'm a freshman. My two new roommates. I'm sitting on one bed. Right next to me is another roommate. Across the way is this other roommate. The one next to me is verbally going after the one across the way.
Mhm.
Like she was just criticizing her, and just for no reason. She didn't even know her. And I got so mad. I didn't even know what I was doing. This was an unconscious thing, but my left arm went out and smacked her in the gut,
Oh, wow.
knocked the wind out of her. But I actually accomplished what I wanted, was for her to shut up. So, and everybody was shocked. I was shocked. And then I went back home on a vacation, and I said, "You guys never helped us with anger, and it's coming out in weird ways." And they just walked out of the room because they didn't know how to deal. So that was partly why, I got into my therapy, because I knew I had issues, and loneliness. My parents did not hug us. They hugged each other. We watched them hug each other. We didn't get it. There were three of us.
Yeah.
And so this kind of lack of emotional connection. My dad was good, but and supportive of us. So I think we all kind of really connected to him, but there wasn't the really deep, I claim you, I adore you, you're my kid, belonging kind of affection that we need as humans. So then I was on my journey to discover healing for myself. That's
How
what
does that affect kids in general? Like you said, without the hugging, people might say, I love you. Maybe they don't. Maybe they have the verbal abuse issue in their family. You went through this. There's many people listening that have gone through this. How do, people get past it, I guess, even when they're an adult, because obviously they probably haven't solved it.
Totally, I know. Well, we're mammals. So the research is like mammals need touch to
Yeah.
grow, to thrive, right? Failure to thrive, that whole thing, that has a lot to do with not being touched and held. We got to feel somebody else's body and their hearts and their breathing. So then we're like, oh, they can relax. Otherwise, we get anxious. We get scared. Like, I'm out here by myself. So what I do with people, and you're right, there's a ton of people who have no real claiming in their family. So I work with the inner child, and I do it through EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and restructuring. And we go into if the person wants to, then we go into the little child, like, where do you remember your deepest pain. Were you 3? Were you 5? What happened? And it's not like you got to relive it, but you got to touch it. You got to find that place. Where do you feel it in your body? What do you think about yourself? What are your emotions telling you? So it's a whole, and then we use our imagination. And when you use the EMDR, it's cool because you bring in the adult into the picture, the imagination, and you contact the 3-year-old. So you got the adult and the 3-year-old, and the adult makes relationship with the 3-year-old, and just tries. You don't push anything. It's like child therapy. You wait for the kid to lead you. And then, like, I have this one client who, she's amazing with this. And so she had this 5-year-old who, we were going to do some EMDR and inner kid work one day. So she goes to the 5-year-old and, okay, what's the problem? What's going on? The 5-year goes, it's not me you got to talk to. Go talk to the 16-year-old. She's having a bad day. So then we flip over to the 16-year-old, and she was having a terrible day. So my client, being the grown-up, is able in this setting to listen to the 16-year-old, to validate her feelings, to give her this big long hug and say, none of this is your fault. You're awesome and amazing. So it's not like it's over, but there's a bit of healing that happens in that moment. And with the EMDR, it changes the brain. There's a lot of research with that. Bessel van der Kolk wrote, The Body Keeps the Score, and he likes EMDR because it works with trauma. And he likes yoga too, hatha yoga, because you get in touch with your body. Everything is in here. So we got to get into the body to and get out of the head so that we can heal. How's that sound to you?
Sounds good to me. And again, for people listening, Ann Naimark, the website is annaimark.com. The book is A Touch of Light. As we go toward the end of the interview, I just want to ask you, you're working with many different people out in Sacramento, California. If people are listening in that neck of the woods, I would definitely tell you to look up Ann. But people regardless should look for the book, A Touch of Light. It's annaimark.com, Naimark. And, what are you working on a lot with people right now in your practice as far as patients? Because COVID changed everything as far
Mhm.
as people's opinions and what they're going through in general in life.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, I'm back in the office now, not so much online. It's a combination, but people are wanting to be in person, and I'm cool
Right.
with that. That works great. And we're still doing the childhood stuff. I mean, that's never stopped. That's where all the pain starts, usually, and the not being able to negotiate your life very well.
But are you working with a lot of families or more just single people?
Mostly singles.
Okay.
Singles. I do have a couple couples.
Okay.
Yeah, but in that scene, you also work with the inner child, and who are you bringing to this relationship, So it's about getting in touch with yourself so that you don't perpetrate your own unconscious nonsense crap onto the other person. So it's becoming aware and then working on healing. And then as each person discovers what is the deep pain in each other person, then there's compassion, and there's like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I get it. And there's empathy, and that helps in the relationship and also just in each person's healing. So, yeah.
So as we end with the book in general, again, we hope people will go to the website. It's annaimark.com, A Touch of Light. Definitely check out the book there. You can go on Amazon and get the book too. What do you hope people learn from our conversation today, but mostly the book in general?
That you can do this. You can work with yourself. You don't have to suffer. You seek out what's going to work for you. This is your journey. You're your own authority. What do you need? And as is evident in the book, my journey's taken many twists and turns as I'm experimenting, and sometimes you got to do that because you don't know. You try this out, okay, that's not really working. Then you try something else out, and you figure it out, but you can do it. And I'm evidence. I mean, the journey's not over, but
Right.
life is good now.
All right. Again, Naimark.com, A Touch of Light. Ann, thanks so much. I hope we can do this again very soon.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate hanging out with you. You're cool.